So I'd like to welcome everybody to our Monday morning conversation as we review the Unity Correspondence Course from many years ago, a century ago, actually. And we just finished last week the very first lesson on the silence. And we are going to begin today's the next lesson on healing. And before we do that, let's read the daily word. So I invite everybody to settle in, and while I bring that up on the screen,
Get my copy.
and just feel that presence, the divine presence of God, take over our awareness. We live, move, and have our being in God. Where two or more are gathered in God's name, that presence is palpable. There's nothing else. And in this consciousness, I'd like to invite anybody who would be willing to read today's daily word.
I will.
Thank you.
World peace. Oh, yes, world peace. I hold a vision of a peaceful world. The peace I wish to see in the world begins in my own heart. To call upon the peace within me and bring it into the world, I use my spiritual gift of love to feel in harmony with all others. I use my power of imagination to envision the world filled with peace. And through my gift of will, I choose peaceful responses, no matter the circumstance. I envision God's healing, loving power enfolding the earth and all its people. As I claim this spiritual vision, my heart is lifted and it's easier for me to perpetuate peace. The notion that others are holding the same vision of a peaceful world encourages and comforts me. I pray our shared goal of peace on earth touches every heart and mind in every corner of the globe. Those of steadfast mind you keep in peace because they trust in you. Isaiah 26:3.
Thank you, Lillian. I hold a vision of a peaceful world. I hold a vision of a peaceful world. Let's affirm that together. I hold
a vision
of a
of a
peaceful world.
peaceful world.
A lot of good stuff in this daily word, as there usually is. Through my gift of will, I choose peaceful responses no matter the circumstances, reminding us that what we experience in our lives is based on what we choose. We have the power to co-create our lives with God. In fact, we co-create our lives with God, whether we're aware of it or not. So it's a power and a pleasure to be conscious of these things. So last time we finished up the first lesson on the silence, where we actually explored consciousness. We talked about the experience of the inner chamber, going in within to discover the truth, the secret place of the Most High, as Emily Cady called it. And today we're going to start the next lesson. Before we do that, let me just check in with the group. Anybody have any reflections that you'd like to share with the group before from the first lesson, before we move on to the second?
Well, I did come up with a musical ditty for our motto. I've got spirit, I've got spirit, Holy Spirit. I've got spirit working for me now.
Beautiful. Good work. Thank you. Mary sends you a heart. Anybody else have any thoughts about the silence before we move on to healing? Okay. It's always appropriate to bring it up if you think about something later on you'd like to share. That's fine too. So we're going to move to lesson number 2. And before we do that, I just want to point out for those of you who haven't had a chance to explore the website that this over here you see on the right-hand side of the screen is links to all of the different lessons and also information about the lessons. So anytime you want to on your own, you can go to the truthunity.net website and explore these different lessons. Over here, Mark has created basically downloadable and printable versions of each lesson. You can click on this and you'll get a PDF of the lesson, which some people like to have hard copies. So this is a way that if you like having a hard copy, you can do that for yourself. And that's pretty much with every lesson. At least for the first series here, the basic lessons, prayer, healing, prosperity, body of Christ, overcoming, and demonstration. I don't know if he's got to the advanced lessons yet, but at least the basic lessons I think are all available now in PDF.
Marty, can you
Yeah.
put that link in the chat?
All right. Did you get the email?
Oh, it's in the email?
It's in the email.
Okay, great.
You bet.
Thank you. This
Yeah.
is a great resource.
Yeah.
And at some point, he's changing websites, right? He's
I
changing the name of the.
yeah, there's a rebranding going on. He's gonna change it to Filmore.Faith. And once that happens, obviously I'll let everybody know that if you're not following it yourself. So hey, let's start with the introduction so Cora Alexander is a colleague of Mark's, and she co-facilitates the course that I've been attending since September. And she did this little introduction. Would anybody be willing to read that?
I'd like to.
Please.
Health is abiding, eternal, and unchangeable. Wholeness is our birthright. Myrtle Filmore, Unity co-founder, demonstrated through her health challenge that spiritual practices of daily prayer and meditation were a key component of her healing journey. Through conscious communion with the divine mind, the source of life, our perfect idea of wholeness is realized as health in the body. Lay hold of true thoughts by affirmation based upon divine ideas. Pray in the presence, promise, not the problem. Jackie Austin, Fillmore Wings group member.
Great, thank you. So this is a summary of this lesson, and we may come back and read this at the end to see if that captures it for us. And then into the original text here, the correspondence course started with this little poem, Not Built with Hands. It says R.H. Grenville, then it has this parens Beatrice C. Raleigh. I don't know what that means, so I don't know. I'm assuming Grenville was the writer and Raleigh was the one who discovered it for us, but who would like to read the poem?
Just the poem? Yeah.
Sure.
No fairer structure has been raised on earth since time began. No walls of costly stone built for a Solomon had half the worth of this fine edifice of flesh and bone. Here is a city in itself complete, at once a temple and a citadel, set like a palace in the common street, wondrous beyond the power of words to tell, perfect and beautiful in every part. The ark of each man's covenant with life shines the bright altar of the human heart, a sanctuary in the midst of strife, fairer than any which the prophets trod. Behold the temple of the living God.
Thank you. Any reflections on what Grenville is saying in this poem? Whoops. Sorry about that. Okay, let's go on then to the first couple of paragraphs. Let's start with the first three paragraphs here, and then we'll stop and discuss. Who would be willing to read the first three paragraphs?
I can read.
Great, thank you.
Take my turn.
Thank you.
Let me get my so can you make it a little bit bigger? Is it possible or is
You
that
can.
I can? I don't know how, but okay. What is the one way to health? Health is a blessing greatly to be desired. That men appreciate it is shown by their efforts to regain it when once it seems to be lost. The question is, what is the true method of gaining health? Keep going.
Please, yeah, read the first three paragraphs if you
Oh,
would.
okay.
Thank you.
Everyone instinctively feels that there must be a way to health, an exact, sure way founded upon principle. There is such a way. It may be found by the earnest student in the doctrine of Jesus Christ. The teaching of Jesus is an absolute science. Webster defines science as a knowledge of principles or facts, systemized and formulated with reference to the discovery of general truths or the operation of general laws. The foundation The foundation principle upon which the universe was created was that it was good and very good. This principle should be understood and applied. This cause should be set into operation in order to produce a like effect. When the mind of man is trained to believe in the good, the true, the perfect in self and in others, a like effect will be produced in the body and will show forth as health or wholeness. Jesus knew God. He knew the principle, the law lying back of every man's being. He, the great teacher, was perfectly competent to instruct men in the law of their being. Then the real object of existence is to attain the consciousness of eternal life. Jesus was the great way shower to the attainment of this realization of spirit.
Thanks, Mary. And then would you read the first four notes here that are referenced in the text?
Okay, I'll try. It's really small. One, health. Oh, thank you. Number one, health. Metaphysically, a state of being sound or whole in mind and body. Oneness with the Christ mind assures perfect health. Number two, everyone instinctively feels that there must be a way to health. This is because health is the normal condition of human beings, a condition true to the truth of our being. Number 3, Genesis 1:31 interpretation. God's creation, as recorded in the first chapter of Genesis, is in the realm of ideas, that is, in the ideal. In divine mind, man is first of all an idea, perfect as divine mind is perfect. And number 4, too.
Please.
Okay, cause, effect, the law of sequence, the balance wheel of the universe. This law, like all other divine laws, inheres in being and is good. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Man lives in two worlds, the world of cause, the within, and the world of effect, the without.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mary.
You're welcome.
So this is our introduction to this chapter on health. Any initial reflections, thoughts, questions?
I loved it.
What do you love about it?
Well, it's just so powerful. It takes the health. It's up to you, not a doctor thing.
Okay.
I had a question.
Yeah.
It's not so much as a question as an issue. It's difficult for me to understand why some babies are born with poor health that they carry throughout their lifetime.
Yeah, makes sense.
Well, I don't, it doesn't make sense to me to,
No, your question makes sense.
oh, okay. Well, what doesn't make sense is how much I believe in what was just read, and I do feel that we're responsible for maintaining an attitude that allows a healthful experience. But when I look at children, I just can't think that they have such a negative way of thinking that they brought about their ill health. I have trouble reconciling those two things.
Yeah. Anybody have any reflections on Susan's question?
I had the same thought, and I wasn't even applying it to children. Just there are people in the world who don't have good health, and it feels like they're getting blamed for it with their bad attitude.
Okay. Anybody else have a reflection on that? I recommend that we put those questions in the parking lot and come back and review them at the end and see if, having read the whole chapter or the whole lesson, we have thoughts about these kind of fundamental observations. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. Any other thoughts or reflections on the first three paragraphs? All right, well, let's go on. Who would be willing to read number 4?
I will.
Okay, thank you.
The law of man's being is I am, the word, the creative power of God. Man uses the law or create. Where did we go?
Let me expand a little bit for you. Hold on a second. You'd think I never did this before. Well,
Oh, okay. Man uses this law or creative power of God by his thinking and feeling. The use that man makes of the law of his being is his formative power of thought or his use of I am power. The law of manifestation for man is the law of thought. Conscious knowledge and understanding of the law of man's being, followed by right thinking, right feeling, and obedience, result in health in soul, the mind, and body. There is no other way to health. There is no other way to health. Leaving in conscious harmony with man's true identity, I am, and using the power of I am in the right way in thinking, feeling words, and actions is the true method of manifesting health. This lesson aims to explain the operation of cause and effect and show how the laws of God may be made practical by everyone in the demonstration of health.
Okay, so would you be willing to read the
The
three,
rest of it,
5, 6, and 7?
I am. The metaphysical name of the spiritual self as distinguished from the human self. One is governed by spirit, the other by personal will. 6. The word. The Greek logos, which has been translated word, literally means reasonable speech, or as we may say, the reasonable thought or word. That is, all things that God or mind made in the beginning were perfect results of the power of mind at work through thought along lines of accurate reason based on the perfect ideal conception inherent in infinite mind. 7. Law of manifestation. We in Unity believe that there is an orderly process of manifestation by which we are able to bring forth God's ideal creation. An example of this process can be understood when we interpret the first chapter of Genesis metaphysically.
Okay, thank you. So, any thoughts about this last paragraph about the law of man's being is I am?
Well, it sure, yeah, it's we've been talking about that, and I really like that. I am, you know, puts it in your power.
Okay.
Can you scroll up a little bit?
Mary?
Yeah, I have two thoughts about the I am. The one big one is that I am in God and God is in me. And then the more personal one is I need to be really careful what I put behind those words, the I am, because the universe always says yes. So I am sick. I am tired. I am bored. I am ugly. Like all of those things I'm affirming and saying to myself and to the universe instead of saying, instead of being in a higher state of consciousness and I am a loving child of God or I am living in perfect health today. And so the Unity teaches us the use of affirmations and I catch a lot of people that in our society around me sometimes putting themselves down, they don't measure up and they affirm that with what they put behind the I am. It kind of breaks my heart sometimes. When I hear my son doing it, I could catch him and correct it. But when I hear other people doing it, it's like, oh, that's not true. Say something different. Anyway, those are my thoughts.
Right. I I have a little reminder. She happens to be in Hawaii right now, but she's if I say anything that she will catch me and just say, "Don't say that," you know. We all need that little reminder on our shoulder.
But why is that so?
Why is what so? That
What? So Mary made the observation that the words that come after the I am, when we use it in a sentence, I am sick, I am upset, whatever. Why is that? Why is it so that that the use of that word, that sentence, has such power?
Well, I think I'll just answer since I said it, but I would love if other people chime in too. Because thoughts produced thoughts per in mind produce after their kind. And this is one of our Unity teachings. And I just feel that that's a truth. It's the way the universe works.
Okay.
yeah. Are you asking why it works, Marty,
Or how?
or how it works?
Yeah, I don't know how it works, but it does. It seems
Yeah,
to
it
in my
really.
life anyway.
Well, I just noticed here in this sentence that it seems to me that's kind of the answer, is that our true identity is the I am of God. So the I is always the divine idea of us. And we participate by virtue of being the child of God. So when I say I can, in my human mind, I think it's just referring to Marty. But according to this text,
Mm,
the true I is the I of the divine, of God. And that I is the creative power.
mm,
So that's the way I read this sentence here, that's our true identity is the I am of God. So tapping into divine power, well, the divine power is the creative power, the power to create. I am sick, I am ugly is creative. Just as I am happy, I am healthy is creative.
Yeah, it'd be nice to learn that really early on.
Well, I'd rather learn it at 73 than not learn it at all.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
And then number 5 in the footnotes gives that definition too.
Right. Metaphysical name of the spiritual self is distinguished from the human self, the I am.
Yeah, I like that one is governed by spirit, the other by personal will. That's a nice distinction. I was also going to comment in the main paragraph above. I can't remember the Buddhist principles, but right action, right thinking. It's like,
Right.
oh, just sounds like the Buddhist thing.
Mm.
The right path or something. Is that what it's
Yeah.
called?
Della, that reminds me of the fact that the Fillmores went to the very first World Conference of Religions that was held in Chicago in 1895. And it was the first time that people from all the different religions of the world got together to share their information about their own faith practices. And so there were Buddhists there as well as Hindus and Muslims and others. So um, I assume that the Fillmores were very interested in learning about the similarities of other religious traditions to what they had discovered. That may be why those words are showing up there like that. It may be consciously Buddhist.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And where was that conference?
This is Chicago.
Chicago. Wow.
Oh,
1895.
Yeah.
Amazing.
wow. Well, and with Myrtle, wasn't their belief was that you inherit the sins of the father and all that?
The law of karma. Well, the law of karma is we come back to, if we've done things in this lifetime that were not of enlightenment quality, we come back to learn it again.
Uh-huh.
There's a real um, emphasis on reincarnation in the Hindu and Buddhist traditions.
Is that what she believed was that her what was it, tuberculosis or something was a karmic thing?
You know, that's a good question. I suspect when she was working on her self-healing and she was a young woman in her 20s, I don't know that she had developed all of this sophisticated understanding yet. I think that
Huh.
I think I think that came later. That would be my guess. I mean, she was a Methodist. Let's remember, Myrtle Filmore was raised a Methodist.
What was his background?
I forget. I think he might have been Methodist as well.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember. We can look that up. Anything else before we move on to the next paragraph? Okay. Who would like to read?
I can.
Okay, thank you.
Disease and reality. Explain what is meant by the statement that there is no reality in disease. 5. The fault with the healing system of man lies in the fact that men have tried to cure disease without removing the cause of it. Causes are not remedied merely by dealing with effects. This is a simple preposition and one that easily appeals to our reason. To find a remedy, we must go to cause first. If a cause is removed, its effect is removed. This is the right and only sure method of wiping out the appearance of disease. And it should be remembered that disease is only an appearance. There is no power of reality in it, for God did not create it. If mental and physical discords were real, they could not be healed because that which is real is enduring, unchangeable. Disease does not have a divine idea or principle behind it as a pattern for its formation. Therefore, any belief or condition of disease can be changed because it is not a God creation. 1, disease, an inharmonious condition in mind and body brought about by error thinking. Ignorance causes all disease. 2, reality. The real is the permanent. It contains in the same state or without essential change. The fictitious is the impermanent. It does not continue in the same state or without essential change.
Well, there's a little bit to chew on in this.
Yeah.
Any thoughts or reflections? Disagreements?
Well, I just think about genetic diseases, and like I have a genetic disease and it's actually on my chromosome 4 and it's in my DNA. And I got it from my mother, so I don't really know how I have anything to do with it being there. Um or how I could possibly change my DNA to be for the disease to be gone.
Okay.
an adjunct, a sideways comment. My father and my aunt and their parents were Christian scientists. And in the 80s, my aunt asked me if I had any religious practice, and I said Unity. And she said, "Oh, that's just watered down Christian science." I see that kind of here because she was pretty pure about that kind of thinking. And it was interesting when she was aging and passing away. She lived in San Francisco and she was in a not exactly hospital called Arden Manor or something, where I went to see her when she was dying. There were no machines, there was no beeping, it was only quiet and prayerful nurses. And it was really interesting to see that in kind of its purest form.
Wow. Did she have an ailment to dying from, or just old age?
I think old age,
Ah, great.
in her 90s.
Oh, great.
She might have fallen. I mean, that can lead to something, but I don't
Yeah.
remember.
Well, I remember that was the official diagnosis of what the Queen of England passed away from recently, old age.
Old age. Well, she was in that category.
So, Della, you don't have to answer this, but did you draw any conclusions for yourself from that observation?
From my aunt.
Yeah,
Uh,
in
it,
that peaceful
it,
non-machine beeping
it,
environment.
it's of interest to me.
Okay.
Well, that's
She
how my mom, we set up hospice at home and we had this quiet room where people were coming and praying and spending time with her. So it seems like that's a thing that a lot of people are doing. Don't you think, Della?
Yeah, I mean, and this was in the 80s.
Hmm. Yeah, so that was before hospice.
Hmm.
Yeah. So we're moving more toward that.
Yeah, because it seems like if you go to the hospital, their focus is trying to keep you alive no matter
Yeah.
what your situation is.
Yeah.
So, anybody have a thought or reflection about this assertion here that disease is not real? I mean, this is foundational to Unity's understanding of health and healing.
It's a tall order when you're not feeling well.
Or if you have a genetic disease.
Yeah.
Or if you have a child who's born with some less than
Genetic.
optimum physical condition, as Susan was saying
Mhm.
earlier.
Yeah, that one's a hard one.
But can you see what they're setting up here?
Mhm.
That we can take care of the a disease because it's not real, you
Well,
mean?
I think what this paragraph is inviting us to consider the distinction between reality and non-reality. So that's what I think they're really trying to get us to start out right here is there is no power or reality in it, for God did not create it. If mental and physical discords were real, they could not be healed because that which is real is enduring and unchangeable. So
Mm.
that's, I think, what they're asking us to start to accept that reality, and because it's that which is enduring and unchangeable is real, that's just another word for God. God is the only thing that's enduring and unchangeable. So they're setting up a notion that dis-ease in our lives is not merely physical. It can also be psychological, it can be political, it can be financial. Um, that these dis-eases come from straying from identity with what's real. That's the thesis, that's the theory here.
I like that you have identified disease as something more than health, just health, physical health.
Yeah. And remember what they're talking, remember in the paragraph above, they talked about cause and effect. So again, they're trying to, I think the way they're writing this is they're trying to set things up that they will bring to, they will bring the thoughts together by the end of the lesson. So remember, this is something that they use to teach people, especially newcomers to the Unity movement, about the foundational ideas of Unity.
Mm.
In the first lesson, the silence might be easier for us to accept the ideas of going into the silence and contacting the divine and the permanent and the one, the I am. And now they're asking us to take a look at the effects of this in the real world. And as we can hear, just hear what we've shared here, this is not quite as easy to accept on the face of it than maybe the first lesson was, which is fine.
It's also interesting to think about what Mary talked about last week, which is, it's one thing to be in permanent reality about the I am, and it's another to get the dishes done and drive your kids to school. And oh, not always easy to be in doing both things at the same time.
Exactly. And one of the foundational ideas of unity, and I don't think it's just limited to unity, um, but the way that we have come to study these things is that the I am is the only reality, and that we are created as participants of the I am. And we live in a world of belief, cultural belief, race consciousness, as Charles Fillmore called it, that doesn't believe this, that doesn't experience this. So the challenge is to train our thoughts to cohere with the belief that the I am is the only thing operating in this moment, right now, as I'm talking and we're talking, that's the I am talking. And for most of us, if you're like me, you have a part of your mind that goes, well, that's bullshit. That's just not real. And that's what we're working on, is retraining that little voice that says that's not real. At least that's what I'm doing.
But to retrain that voice, it has to make sense. We can't go forward with unanswered questions. And I think there's probably a deeper reason for the manifestation of illness than we're touching in this lesson.
Yeah, so maybe we should go on and see. So we'll move on to the next one. If there isn't any other comment or thought, okay, who will read the next one for us?
I'll read it.
Thank you, Gail.
Disease and beliefs. What reason have we for believing in health as our birthright? The real is that which cannot be changed, which always is. Health is real, abiding, eternal, unchangeable. Health or wholeness is every man's birthright. The Spirit of God has made me, and the breath of the Almighty gives me life. That's Job 33:4. It's very important to remember this, because the thought of man has so built up the belief in the power and reality of sickness and disease that they seem more impregnable fortresses of evil. That they seem impregnable fortresses of evil. This is especially true of the forms of error which have been stamped incurable. There are no incurable diseases. Every appearance of ill has a cause, and that cause can be removed. When the cause has been removed, then the effect will disappear.
Mm.
Number one, there are no incurable diseases. See letters of Myrtle Filmore. No incurable diseases, 1936. When the cause has been removed, then the effect will disappear. The cause of health is faith. The cause of Health is God. Affirm your faith in God, and health will come forth in you. It's James Dillard Freeman, The Four Causes of Health.
Thanks, Gail. I just point out again to everybody, if you'd like to follow up on what Myrtle Filmore has to say on no incurable diseases, you can click on this link for yourself and go read it. That's
Oh,
that's
great.
the beauty of the way that Mark has set this up. Same is true with James Dillard Freeman's Four Causes of Health, or up here Imelda Shanklin's book, What Are You? So all those things are for anybody who would like to follow up on what Mark has set up here for us. You can just go click on it, follow the link, and read it for yourself.
Perfect.
Okay, so any thoughts or comments on, again, we're asked to have faith in what is real, which is that which cannot be changed and always is, and that health is real, abiding, eternal, unchangeable similarly. And then we are confronted with this bold challenge that there is no such thing as an incurable disease.
Yeah, that's a strong one. But I know in some simple things, like I've once I've learned this theory, I've managed to get rid of some things I don't like. For instance, for several years after Christmas, I always expected to get the flu. It was like, oh, I've been going, and now time to relax and get the flu. But when I changed my thinking and said, no, I'm not going to get the flu, I haven't had the flu since. So I've done it in small ways. I haven't had any, big challenges to work on. Thankfully.
Well, and you might consider that in God, there's no such thing as big or small.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that just to point out the principle that you applied is applicable in all situations.
Uh-huh.
Any other thoughts or comments on this?
I think about Mary's comment about the genetic disease and trying to, you know, is it sounds incurable, or is it a state of health even with it? It's hard to process those things.
Yeah, again, I think that that insight goes along with the first one that we raised about kids born with difficult or genetic uh, issues. So can we put that in the parking lot also, Della, and come back to it? So you guys hold me to come back to this by the end of the at the end of the lesson. So let's move on to healing then, and let's talk about that. Who would read this one? Because look at the question. Is it possible to heal all diseases, including incurable ones?
I'll read.
Okay, thank you.
Number 7, is it possible to heal all diseases? The belief in the power and the reality of disease is itself one cause for the appearance of disease in the body. When men see that there is no truth in such a belief, they let go of it, and the appearance then yields readily, not having the sustaining force of thought to keep it in evidence. A law was stated by Jesus when he said, "According to your faith, be it done to you." Those who believe in disease as a reality have faith in it. They get results according to the application of their faith faculty, and some form of physical error keeps manifesting in their lives.
Go ahead and finish this section, okay? Number 8.
Yeah, I was just thinking for a moment.
Okay.
All causes are mental. Everything starts in mind as an idea or a concept of some idea. If we want to manifest health, we must think of the life idea. build a concept of it, and see it manifesting in us as health. Then the law, according to your faith, will work for us to bring about health in the body. And the footnotes, according to your faith, the secret of healing lies in the lifting up of consciousness by faith into the realm of God perfection, thus clearing the way of God's original perfect healing to be done in the body. And number 2, the life idea. The term life idea is used repeatedly in the lessons. It is a divine idea that vitalizes living power in human beings. As we commune with God in the silence of our own soul, we become conscious of God as life and of ourselves as heirs to life. See Charles Filmore, Vitalizing Power in Man.
Thanks, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
What do we think?
I was thinking about free will and how, like, I have the freedom to accept the disease or the freedom to not accept it, or maybe like I have the freedom to accept what's happening with the disease, and then I have the freedom to look beyond it. Like it comes like it's hard for me to articulate what I'm feeling. Anyway, I actually found my Myrtle Filmore Healing Letters book, and she says, we know very well that God would not create a person with imperfections and shortcomings and disease. We also know that God would not create automations without free will and the privilege of exercising their powers of sonship. So, like, I think what she's saying there is that we know that God would not create something that's imperfect, but we also know that we have free will to do with this life what was given. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody.
Was it you who earlier said the universe or God always says yes?
Yeah,
I think that's related to that observation.
yeah.
So the free will, this is my understanding, is if I say I am sick, I'm using my free will to create sickness, and God goes, oh, okay.
Mhm.
And the principle that Unity is trying to teach us here is that if that's true, then the opposite is equally true. I am well. God says, oh, okay. And so we get to choose which it is that we want to manifest.
Mhm.
All causes are mental, says here. Everything starts in the mind as a concept, as an idea or a concept of some idea. If we want to manifest health, we must think of the life idea.
The life idea.
So I see this observation as related to the I am observation. I am healthy. So again, Myrtle Filmore gave us an actual demonstration of this. She used to believe I am sick, I have tuberculosis. According to this teaching, her being sick and having tuberculosis was because she had faith in being sick with tuberculosis. Then she decided to have faith in being healthy and free and whole and complete. And she spent 2 years. This is the work here. This is the challenge. She spent 2 years in a daily meditation with her body to convince the cells of her body that they too were healthy They too did not inherit disease. They too were whole. And I'm still blown away by the faith that it took. It must have taken to be able to do that every single day when for a long time there was no
Yeah.
resulting manifestation of it.
Mm.
It took 2 years in an environment of people where was everybody going, yeah, Myrtle, go, you're going to get healed. Or were people going, what, that woman's nuts?
I did have an observation from this as well, and that is that there's no reason that there has to be one concept of perfect health. Is
Okay.
that perhaps Stephen Hawking's was in the correct body for him to accomplish what he needed to accomplish with that life.
Oh, good thought.
Well, it is a thought that that body was perfect or not perfect, isn't it?
Yeah.
It makes me feel sorry for physicians who would like to have this kind of thinking and could be surrounded by patients who want better living through chemistry.
But that's not so bad either, is it, Della? I mean, if that's the creation of medication that can ease a body, then that is the direction that body needs to be going. I always like what Dorothy would say. She would say, "My body has something, but the I am or I do not have it." And I think sometimes what we immediately glom onto is that the physicality of our life trumps the mind spirit or the God self. And we actually had the mind and God self way before there was the physical body. The physical body came into manifestation afterwards. So, is the mind subservient to the body or is the body subservient to the mind? And I think um, there's the spiritual body and then there's the physical body. And sometimes the physical body just is. It's a physical part of the earth. And how you deal with that physical illness or whatever disease that you might be having is how you relate to your spiritual, your higher consciousness. And Stephen Hawking's had what we viewed as a physical ailment, that he couldn't do the physical things that most people you'd think could do, but yet his mind was totally free. So it's this not yin and yang because we're still all part, but people we're not only a physical body, we are a mind being. In fact, we're the mind being first. And I think people feel that our mind has to no, that's not what I want to say. I want to say that if we can't heal ourselves of a physical ailment, then we don't necessarily have faith, or our mind is not strong enough. And the spirit is not strong enough. And I don't believe that at all. I think that how Mary said is that you can, it's like, okay, if my body has something, my body has it, but I'm not going to live my life as dictated by my body.
Nicely said.
Almost
Well,
makes me think of the Serenity Prayer, Suzanne.
well, that's a beautiful note on which to wrap this up. It is 9:30, so
Wow, that went by fast.
Oh, wow.
Thank you,
thank you,
everyone.
everybody. Um,
Thanks.
I learned a lot, and I just enjoy being with you all. And let's close out by saying our prayer for protection together.
The light of God
surrounds
surrounds me. The love
Love
of
of
God
God enfolds us.
holds me.
Holds
The
us.
power
Power
of
of
God
God
protects us.
protects me.
The
The
presence of
Presence of
God
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 watches over us.
wherever we
wherever we
are.
are.
who we are.
God
God
is
is,
God is.
and
all
all is
All
healthy.
is
well.
well.
Thank you, Marty.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
healthy
you.
week.
We got to thank Mark too. This is great.
Indeed.
Have
And
a healthy day.
we'll see you guys next week.
Amen.